Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Aluminum, carbon fiber, and wood. Pros and cons to these arrows. Wow, sorry it's not a real arrow, it's a prop. But it gets the point across. So, we've been discussing this a little bit on one of the Facebook groups because an individual wants to swap out from carbon and go purist with wood. And of course, I gave him some warnings about it. And another guy did actually speak up, and he's got cedar arrows, and he noticed that, yeah, they're starting to, like, just, guess they're a little dry. Yeah, that's why humidity is very critical with wood, okay? I don't care what kind of wood it is. Humidity is humidity, okay? There's a minimum amount and a maximum amount that wood is designed to work with before it becomes unstable. That number is usually between 40 as the minimum and 55% generally is the maximum, okay? Now, we are not shooting exotic wood arrows here, and I've never seen any for sale either, so we can easily discount products like rosewood and bloodwood and, many other types of woods that are definitely not suitable ever for an arrow, period. So you generally see them more of hardwood types. But they do make them even in cedar, which I'm not sure if I would consider cedar myself as a hardwood or a softwood, but it's definitely a crappy wood. They're great for making boats out of, but, if you have a boat that's made out of cedar like we had when I was growing up, we had to soak the thing for 3 days for the wood to swell up enough that it wouldn't leak and sink. Otherwise, if you put that bone dry cedar boat into the lake and you didn't pre-soak, it would just hit the bottom in like probably 2 hours. Okay, yeah, cedar is that crappy, and it dries out really super easy. So it actually needs to be well above 40. It needs to be all the time, like in the 50s. Okay, so otherwise it just is garbage. So anyhow, wood arrows are very, very reliant on humidity staying balanced to stay proper, because the humidity is also going to control the weight level as well. And if your humidity level is always going up and down, well, so is the weight of your arrow. Okay, that's a big problem with wooden arrows, all right? So you need to keep it as stable as possible with its humidity level, right? So, and you can't say, well, the damper it is, the better it is. No, because damper means the wood swells up, the grains separate, which can also cause cracking, but it definitely guaranteed it's going to cause a lot of weight issues. It's going to cause soupy flight. It's definitely going to be a little bit more resilient, sure, but you're going to have a very bad flight experience, and it's going to be very heavy when it's too humid, okay? But when it doesn't have enough humidity, it could snap on launch, okay? And that is not going to go good when you have fragments and slivers of wood flying back at your eyeballs, okay? You gotta be careful with wooden arrows. They are severe when it comes to humidity levels needing to be stabilized and to keep the arrow running as straight and true as the day you got it, okay? Now, this is not an actual arrow, but it's a piece of dowel that spent the winter in my shop, and it was straight last summer, but now look at what happens here. This is just by spending the winter in the shop, and it was in a tube. My shop's not heated either, okay? But this is a sign of way too much humidity in it. Because of the cold dampness, it just absorbed every bit it could, and it still hasn't left, and even if it does leave, it doesn't matter. The damage is done, and it's warped, okay? So had it started its life out straight and at the proper amount of humidity and stayed at that humidity, it would still be straight. But that's not what happened here. And this is just wood dowel, anyways, so it can break easier, it can warp easy, it can either be too heavy or too light off and on if you don't keep an eye on the humidity. It's never going to be stable, okay? This is a big problem with wooden arrows. Yet we've been shooting them for 10,000 years, go figure. So, we get into aluminum next, okay? Now, aluminum is very costly when it comes to arrows, okay? It's costly in a lot of items. But aluminum is a really decent choice over wood. Okay, it's a lot stronger. It's more resilient. Okay, it's not subject to humidity. You just have to watch heat, because aluminum and hot temperatures don't get along, because that can actually warp the aluminum if it gets too hot. But we generally aren't in that position, so we generally don't have to worry about that too much. We have to worry about bendage in other ways, like ricochets off of targets when we miss, and ricochet off of a tree. Or maybe we sunk it into a tree and we're trying to get it to wiggle out because we missed and we hit a tree. Well, chances are that thing ever being straight when it comes out, almost zero. So, not the most resilient thing in the world, but a way better choice than what wood is, that's for sure. But also very costly too. And they can be made to exceedingly good tolerances. I don't know what the tolerance is on this, but it spins like really super straight and true. Okay? Now this is the last remaining arrow that is still straight from my collection of multitudes of arrows that came with my Martin Magnum Phantom compound bow 11 years ago that I had. So, and I have one other one that is now a delineator, because I don't know what happened with that one, but the back end from about here back is all, it's all loopy. The rest of it's straight, but just that part's loopy. So I don't remember what the hell I hit. But I did some nasty shooting of stuff, and it's all on my channel, so you can see what I shot those aluminum arrows at. This one probably never even got shot, and that's why it's still straight. This is an Easton 400 spine carbon, okay? It's pure carbon arrow. Now, like I said, we don't want to get too much into the whole hybrid thing, but, you know, this is not a hybrid. This is straight pure carbon. There's no wrap or anything on this thing, all right? And this arrow costs about $14 tax in for one, okay? Runs really straight and true. I'll say this much, you do kind of get what you pay for sometimes. But then again, I've got Chinese arrows in my collection that cost me, well, depending on the batch we're talking about, my camoed ones, they're like, under $4 a piece. And my other ones are a little over $4 a piece because they're pure carbon and they have feathers. The camo ones have a wrap on them, which makes them 160 grain heavier, just like that, and kind of alters the spine a little bit, makes them a little stiffer. But they're beautiful arrows, okay? And I only got 4 bad ones out of my last batch. That was a batch of 24. My first batch of 12, all of them were fantastic, all right? But they're made to a 0.006 tolerance for those arrows that I've been buying from Akmos. Now, they do actually sell and manufacture arrows that are 0.001, but the price goes up. Of course, it's going to, because they're more precision made. And I'm thinking I might actually try ordering some of those in at some point for one of my bows and see how much the difference is in flight between, you know, a perfectly true running 006 to a 001. I'm just kind of curious, is it really worth spending the extra money, or am I, you know, just paying more money for something that is already just as straight? I don't know. Hard to say. But carbon arrows, they don't care about humidity, kind of like aluminum, but aluminum cares about heat. These don't seem to care about anything. They just keep going and going and going. And the only time you're going to damage one of these things is if you have a really severe hard ricochet off something. And yeah, you can split carbon at that point. But generally when we're shooting our arrows, we're not intentionally trying to destroy them like some YouTubers we watch. They're going like, let's see what it takes to wreck this. Okay? Wow, let's see what it takes to wreck this. And shooting at rocks is kind of stupid, okay? But so is shooting at steel, among other things. I mean, they're arrows. They're made to go into softer targets like flesh, for example, or straw, or a rubber target, or a styrofoam target. They're not made to be shot at rocks and steel and hard aluminum and, you know, stuff like that, okay? I mean, that's just ridiculous. So, but it does say a few things, I guess, in a sense, about impacts, okay? What happens if I miss and it hits a rock? That would be a better video. What happens if we hit a rock somehow instead of let's see what it takes to wreck this thing? Then again, you know, people watch based on titles too, right? So anyway, I think that the overall best choice so far, in my books, is definitely going to be the carbon. I think carbon is the way to go. Now, hybrid carbons, like the carbon with the wrap, they're fantastic, and I have those, which is my Camel ones. Now, there's another hybrid I do know of, and I've seen it up front and personal, and it's a aluminum carbon hybrid mix. And it's a very interesting arrow, and it's very, very expensive per shaft. And I mean, I'm talking like, we're talking $100 a shaft, dead shaft, like no parts installed. And I'm like, owie, clear, clear. I'd never pay $100 an arrow. Besides, I'm not an Olympic shooter. Okay, and these things are so skinny. I'm like, how does that just not bend? And he's like, they're pretty damn resilient, but they will bend, and if they do, you're toast. I'm like, yeah, this is why I shoot cheaper arrows that still fly straight, and they work for targeting, and they are definitely going to bring home meat for the freezer, okay? And that's all we require as basic target shooters and hunters. We don't need 001. We want it, but we got to pay for it, right? But we're fine with, you know, paying for, you know, 005 or 006. They're going to be just as good for getting the job done. And besides, even 005, if there's no defects on 005 or even 006, that tolerance level alone, that arrow is going to run very true, okay? And it will not have issues with bullseyes, all right? Besides, it takes more than a bow and more than an arrow to have accuracy. It takes a lot of practice, proper sighting in with sights if you're using sights. And if you're an instinctive shooter or a gap shooter, well, you're your own sight, so deal with it. But you have to have skill to hit the target anyways, okay? But there's a limit to the quality of arrow you shoot through a bow, whether or not it's going to hit anything, no matter how good you are. Because even the best shot in the world ain't going to fix the 4 bad arrows that I have from my last batch I ordered from China. That, yes, we settled up on that and it was fine. But 4 bad arrows that got through the QC, that's not bad. That's pretty good out of 24 arrows. And I'm fine with that. And besides, I got part of my money refunded for the batch, so I don't care. You know, and I'll order more of them from him because I love dealing with him, and he's a great guy to deal with. And, you know, if I have a problem, he'll fix it. And it's like, yeah, that's better than most companies I've heard about from Amazon when it comes to arrows. So anyway, wood is very, very bad. Aluminum, it's not bad. It's sketchy, but you got to really watch the ricochets, and you got to watch the impacts if you hit a tree, because it ain't coming out straight. The carbon fiber, as far as I'm concerned, is our best solution so far. Okay, and if you want anything even better than carbon fiber, well, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see what gets invented next that can outbeat this stuff, because this stuff right now, it's fantastic. And I love the carbon arrows. They work just great, okay? And I love the fact that, you know, I can even say, all right, well, I don't want these fletches anymore. Peel them off, put a whole new set on. The arrow is still good. I don't have to buy a new arrow because my fletches got wrecked, okay? As long as that arrow is still spinning great, I'm going to have them ripped off and refletched, right? No biggie. Besides, it's only $4.50 an arrow. It's like nothing. That's cheaper. This is like $14 already there, but to refletch is only cost $4.50 an arrow, so that's not bad. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys on this one. Do stay tuned for more. I'm gonna see about maybe picking up a couple of wood arrows just for some experiments for us, and to just, you know, see what we do. I'll think about it. I'm gonna be going to the archery shop today. Hopefully he's back opened, because I want a few things. And while I'm there, I'm going to see what it costs for a couple of wood arrows, and maybe we'll do some experiments. You'll know because we'll have a video before the end of the week, I'm sure. Anyways, that's it. That's all. See ya.